suspension of disbelief is obviously pretty important for a movie like Five Nights at Freddy's 2, but even after turning our brains off, we couldn't help but notice some things that just don't track. A big thing about the original Freddy's location that doesn't make sense is its actual location. How do so many people not know about it or where it is? It's obviously close by. Abby is able to ride there on her bike. Kids have a bottomless reservoir of energy, sure, but come on, this is clearly close enough to know about just by living in the area. Plus, the whole Freddy's thing has blown up since the events of the first movie. Everyone is obsessed with the lore now, so you'd think, oh yeah, remember that second one would come up. You'd think that more people besides Vanessa, who's been keeping Charlotte's ghost at bay with the music box all these years, would at least be aware of the OG location, but nope.
Definitely not the Freddy's I remember.
You're thinking of the franchise location. This is the original.
We do see in the beginning of the movie, when the ghost hunters seek it out, that it's located on a closed-off road somewhere. So at the very least, you can say that most people wouldn't venture down a road that's blocked off by a sign. True rebels are hard to come by. But even taking that into consideration, it doesn't make sense that so few people know about it. Another thing that makes its location confusing is how it changes from day to night when Mike rushes there after learning about it from Charlotte's father Henry. It wasn't nearing sunset when he left, so how could that much time have passed if the restaurant is relatively close by? Plus, Mike and Vanessa split up at one point, with him staying behind and her going out to find the animatronics in town. And they're still able to communicate over walkie-talkies. It's so close by that it doesn't make sense. Movie adaptations of beloved video game franchises are always a risky venture, sometimes even more risky than those of beloved books. With books, there's almost too much to draw from. It's all too easy to leave things out or mix up lore. With video games, there's often not enough to draw from, either in terms of story, character development, or any of the other building blocks a movie needs to actually make sense. While it's definitely worth noting that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has story problems and gets severely tangled up in its own lore, something else bothered us even more. And it has to do with the mechanics of the game not making any sense on the big screen. When the animatronics move around in the movie, it should be pretty obvious. They're huge contraptions made of metal and whatnot, and they very obviously weren't built with the idea of stealth in mind. And while the games are full of came-out-of-nowhere jump scares, you can still hear them lumbering towards you in the dark. The game's scary because you know they're around, but in the movie there are times when the animatronics are actually able to sneak up on people without a single sound. Not only is there a part where Foxy is somehow able to appear on the roof of Vanessa's car while she's driving, all without making a single sound, there's also a scene where Mike allows one to sneak up on him while he's sitting in the security office. We get that they're just trying to throw in some jump scares and make things feel like the games. That's obvious. But in a movie, when you're not on the edge of the seat with fear of a game over, it's a lot easier to notice. These sneak attacks shouldn't work. Speaking of Mike being snuck up on in the security office, this reminds us of something else that doesn't make sense. This part, where he's cycling through the different security cameras and trying to find a way to shut down the powerful Wi-Fi system that Marionette uses to control the other animatronics, is an obvious and admittedly fun attempt to recreate the experience of playing the games. But all that fun aside, there's something about the wireless control thing that just doesn't add up. Remember, the movie takes place in the year 2002 and in a restaurant that was built and abandoned in the 1980s. So how is this sort of technology present? And how is that technology so cutting edge? Yes, Wi-Fi has technically been around since the late 90s, but it wasn't anything like it is today. And the restaurant has just been sitting there for like 20 years. Who took the time to upgrade the place with this mysteriously amazing 2002 Wi-Fi? Yeah, Mike, Vanessa's villainous brother, technically could have done this since he's behind everything, but that doesn't explain how the tech existed back in the 80s. The worst part is that they do try to explain it, but in the cheapest way possible. When Michael is giving the ghost hunters a tour of the place in the beginning, he says that the technology was way ahead of its time, but they never made another one. What? That's all you got? It would have been better to just not say anything at all. Okay, this next thing has to do with characters and making them believable. We've all had at least one bad teacher in our lifetimes. Most of us have had a generous handful. So of course it's never weird to see one show up in a movie from time to time. Plus, inspirational teachers are a pretty tired trope after all. We're definitely here for a villainous teacher to hate, a la Professor Snape. But when it comes to Mr. Berg, who is played by the indelible Wayne Knight, he's a little much, like cartoonishly bad. He's almost just as bad as Newman. He's really into robotics and very miffed about the whole FazFest thing that's going on in town. He doesn't see the animatronics as real robots, so he thinks the kids in his class are stupid for being into it. He actually uses the word stupid and even threatens to give the kids an F if they don't attend the school science fair instead. This even goes for the kids who weren't planning to compete in the first place. Lame, dude. It's one thing to try and force literally every kid in your class to be excited about a subject, but trying to force it outside of classroom hours? Yeah, that's too far. Beyond that, he's specifically mean to Abby about the robot she's working on. He looks at her work in progress and dunks on her for not being up to snuff. Then he tries to actively discourage her from entering the competition. What kind of teacher would do that? Any normal teacher would at least try to help her figure out the kinks before telling her to throw in the towel, right? It just doesn't make sense that he would wait this long to critique her work and then just do it so briefly and haphazardly. This might be something you'd see at a really crappy school somewhere, but this one doesn't seem to fit that mold. Worse yet, he purposely drops her finished robot when she shows up at the science fair. And he does this without even testing it out first. Hey, at least he gets what's coming to him thanks to Chica. Or should we say, Charlotte. And what's the deal with Mike and Vanessa's slow burn romance? This is just something we couldn't stop thinking about as we watched the movie. They're dining at a really nice restaurant in the beginning, and he's afraid to call it a date. Why? They obviously like each other, and they've been through a lot together. Like, they were both almost murdered by her crazy serial killer father and a group of haunted animatronics. Isn't that enough to break the ice for a couple of actual adults and propel them into the relationship they both obviously want? What gives? This isn't a Jim and Pam situation where they're both dating different people at first. Nothing is stopping them. Romantic tension is always a solid way to keep people invested in a movie, but the tension actually has to make sense first. Not that it matters within the context of this particular installment anyway, since Mike is so pissed about her keeping so many secrets by the end of the movie that he tells her to leave him and Abby alone.
We're never going to be able to move forward until you deal with some of the mess you left in your head.
Guess we'll just have to wait until he finds a way to save her from being possessed by Charlotte. Speaking of the end of the movie, we noticed one thing that really made us shrug in wonder. Leading up to the climax, Vanessa's car breaks down on the way to Mike's house, where she hopes to save Abby from the marionette before it's too late. But of course, Mike's friend Jeremiah serendipitously drives by at the perfect time in the middle of the night and gives her a ride. While that's silly in and of itself, what's even sillier is his role in the final confrontation. After dropping her off, he seemingly stays in the car and watches Vanessa run inside, where she and Mike end up facing off against Michael, the marionette, and the animatronics she wirelessly controls. Eventually, the friendly animatronics from the franchise location show up to save the day, since Mike went there to ask them for help on his way there. After they rip the marionette's animatronics to pieces, Michael attempts to run away, only to be clotheslined by Jeremiah out in the front yard. So that means Jeremiah was just chilling there the whole time and watching all this crazy stuff happen? Why didn't he try to help sooner? And why is he so nonchalant about it when he runs into the house afterwards to ask if they're all okay? He wasn't privy to what was actually going on, so you'd think he'd want some sort of explanation, right? But nope, he just leaves with them, and that's that. There's one last thing about the finale that doesn't really make sense. Why doesn't Abby die when Charlotte leaves her body? Remember that Lisa, who was possessed by Charlotte in the beginning, does not live through this same scenario. You could argue that Charlotte decides to spare Abby since she used to be Vanessa's best friend and knows that Vanessa cares about her. But still, Charlotte is, kinda too far gone by this point to differentiate between victims, right? Vanessa says that she blames the parents of the town for her death instead of William Afton, who actually killed her. But she still had no problem killing the ghost hunters, who aren't parents, nor were they involved in what happened to her in any way. Once again, it just looks like this is a case of plot armor saving a main character, and we're just supposed to shut up and enjoy a silly horror movie.